Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to NOLA Theater Talk. My name is Alan Smason, and again, glad to have you. Again, we broadcast on to three different areas of the internet, two on Facebook, one on YouTube, and we hope that you'll join us on the NOLA Theater Folk Facebook group or theatercriticism.com's Facebook page or my own YouTube channel. But again, we have been doing this for 4 years now, since the pandemic started. And we want to, remind you all that we broadcast on Monday nights as many times as we can. We first started on Mondays and Fridays during the pandemic, of course. And for a while, it was the only theater centric show or any kind of theater that was going on in town due to the shuttered locations of all theaters across the world. But, we've slowly emerged, and now I try to do this on Mondays whenever I can. Sometimes we have conflicts, but tonight we are actually, just to let you know, we are pre-recording this show so that we can get it out to you guys. And we're going to try to maybe do it more than once prior to the event that we're going to be promoting. But again, I don't want to get ahead of myself too much. First of all, I want to let everybody know that my guest tonight is Mona Golabek. And for those of you who don't know Mona, she is, quite a talented pianist, playwright, actor. She's got a lot of different hats that she wears and wears them very, very well. So I'm going to bring her into the room when we get started in just a second. But I do want you to understand that tonight, because it is pre-recorded, we'll not be able to take any comments. So again, welcome, Mona. I appreciate you being with me. Again, I should say you are not a stranger to New Orleans. You've actually been here back in 2019 in May. You were actually a part of the Le Petit season, were you not?
I absolutely was. It was one of the most, I had a delicious, wonderful time here. I was thrilled to see the success of the show. And as a result, I'm just delighted to be invited back to bring back this story, to share this story of my beloved mother with the greater community, and with a performance, a signature performance, or I should say a gala performance, Monday night in the World War II Museum.
So yeah, we want to kind of give out the details of that. Previously, for those of you who saw it, it was a full-fledged production at Le Petit on the stage. And this is going to be a joint production that's going to be done with the New Orleans Holocaust Memorial Committee and the National World War II Museum. So what essentially you're going to be doing is you're going to be presenting your show, but it'll be part of the presentation that they're going to be doing with the March of the Survivors and the other community memorial prayers, etc., that will be given out. So again, right. It's not just a play this time. It really is a very moving, very spiritual event. And the reason why it's being done is in conjunction with Yom HaShoah. The last time you were here, they were starting to talk about building this Liberation Pavilion at the National World War II Museum. And just after you were here, literally not even a year later, the pandemic set in. And of course, the schedule to do the building for the Liberation Pavilion sort of went off kilter. And there was really a long period of time where they were not even sure they were going to be able to get it up by the time that they did. And finally, it did happen this past year, much to my chagrin. We had the American Jewish Press Association down here a year ago, and I was hoping that the pavilion would have been finished in time for them to be able to see it, but it was another year in the making, before they actually got a chance to get it done. But again, I appreciate you telling us about it. And again, do you have the details as to the time, as to when it's going to be presented, or do we have to go to the World War II Museum?
The lighting ceremony for Yom HaShoah and the honoring of survivors and the prayers and a certain beautiful ceremony will take place in the pavilion. I believe that starts at...
That's the Boeing Pavilion, right? That's the big pavilion with the airplanes hanging down, correct?
The Boeing Freedom Pavilion.
Yeah,
exactly.
And when will when that's all over? What, about an hour or so? Probably around what, 7:30?
So I believe that starts, I think they have a little reception at 5:30, and I believe the lighting and the ceremony starts at around 6 or 6:15, something like that. And then there's going to be a little bit of an intermission after that portion, and then I will come on stage and do the performance.
Okay, so closer to 7 then probably is right. Is that about right? Or maybe quarter
I
7?
think I'm going on stage around 7 o'clock,
Okay,
7:15,
7 o'clock.
something like that.
Okay, good.
Yes.
So that'll give us an idea. And the show runs what? Not quite about 90 minutes, a little bit under.
Well, Alan, what you should know is that what I'm doing here in the Freedom Pavilion is a different, slightly different version than what I brought to New Orleans
Okay.
4 or 5 years ago at Le Petit Theater. That was the Hersheyfelder production that brought me here, and I put on a red wig. I become my mother in a very, very large production. What we're doing in the Freedom Pavilion is something slightly a little bit scaled down, more based on The Children of Willesden Lane, which is the book that I wrote upon which all of this is based, and the mission that I bring across the world. And so it's going to be closer to around 60 minutes.
I got you.
Same show. I just won't put a wig on and become my mother. I'm going to be Mona, the daughter, telling this story, but jumping into the characters just as I did 5 years ago.
And you did that, yeah. You did male characters, you did other female characters. Yes. I mean, you did a really great job of channeling all that. I mean, sometimes your voice would lower, so you got the characters down pretty much. And I have to say too, is not only is this a tribute in a sense to your mother, because it really is a large tribute to her, but also it's an homage in a sense to your grandmother. Wasn't she a pianist as well?
She was. I really don't know how well she was a pianist, but she loved it. And she did teach my mother a little bit when the professor could no longer teach her back in Vienna because of the Anschluss and all the laws that came in against Jewish people.
Yes. So again, we're going to get into that, but before we do any further, I did, because we're recording during Passover time. You can see my matzah tie. I don't know if you noticed. Okay. So the last drink I can have before the ending of Passover when we're recording this is another potato vodka martini. So I'm having that in your honor. I don't know what you brought in. As we know, a tradition we started during the pandemic when everybody needed to have a drink, whether it was real drink, alcoholic or not. I said, everybody bring a drink in, and that way we're all on the same page. It's a little icebreaker. So what did you bring in?
Well, I have coffee, because I've got to stay awake. I have Zooms taking place with Israel and London and whatnot with the changes and everything. So I think I can't drink right just yet.
All right. So again, we have Mona Golabek as our guest tonight. And again, we want to invite everybody to just sit back, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Children of Willesden Lane. So let me, first off, the performance you did the last time, I've got some pictures that were done. And again, I'm going to throw a couple of these in just to give people a little bit of an idea about what this is about. First off, this was a production that you did. You sit at a Steinway, and it is a legitimate Steinway. I assume you have some sort of a deal worked out with the Steinway people, don't you?
Well, I'm a Steinway artist, and so wherever I go to play, preferably if the community has a Steinway, that's what I perform on.
Right. Yes. I mean, they are represented, for you and you for them. Basically, it's a symbiotic kind of relationship,
Absolutely.
Correct?
It's a tremendous honor to be a Steinway artist. No
yes, it is. Yes, it is. That's what I was kind of leading up to, because it is an honor. Yeah. They don't just let anybody. So that's important. And again, before we get into the actual production, what you do on stage, et cetera, tell me a little bit about the book, how that came about, if you don't mind.
So the book came about because about 25 years ago, I was engaged to play the Grieg piano concerto, the piano concerto in A minor by Edvard Grieg that we all love and know. Dee, da, 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 da. And when I was practicing at the piano, I started to remember all the stories that my mother had told me when I was a little girl, when she taught me the piano. She would always say that each piece of music tells a story. And I remembered that this was her dream, to make her debut in this very piece that I was about to make my debut in. So the next morning, when I woke up and went to the piano, I don't really know how it happened, but a dream was born in my heart. I wanted to share her story with the world because I felt that there were really powerful messages in her story of resilience, courage, and what do you hold on to in the darkest of times when you're faced with enormous odds? In her case, she was faced with incredible losses, prejudice, bigotry, profound anti-Semitism, unspeakable things that of man's inhumanity to man. And how did my mother find the strength to make her way through? So this is a story really of a girl who held on to her music in the darkest of times. She was given that message at the train station by her mother, my grandmother, Malka, when she said goodbye to her at the train station and told her to hold on to her music, that no matter where she would be in the world, Malka would be with her through the music. So I remembered all these things. I wrote the book called The Children of Willesden Lane. It eventually became a kind of a classic in schools, started to get adopted across America. And then my path came in, I met Hershey Felder, who took me under his wing and adapted this for the stage and created the stage play called The Pianist of Willesden Lane.
Correct.
But every time I would be in a city and I had the opportunity to do the show, I always tried to figure out how could I come back to bring this to students? How could I come back? Because I knew that this was such a powerful message for young people. So when I was here in New Orleans, my path crossed with one of the sponsors, one of your greatest philanthropists here in your city, Bill Goldring. And so he and I chatted and talked about it, and he was very taken with the show. And I said, I'd like to return one day to bring this to students across Louisiana. So I'm not only here to do the World War II gala on Monday night, but this is a very broad program. Close to 20,000 students are reading the book right now across Louisiana. I'm speaking to you from Baton Rouge, where many students are reading it here, and I'll be doing performances here tomorrow for students and the community. And then the students are going to watch the virtual show that is being broadcast into their school districts. And now the book is out in K through 12. So we have a chapter book, a young adult book, the adult book, and the illustrated book. And I'm holding this up right now so that your audience can see this. This is the latest version. And you can see the title is Hold On to Your Music. Those were the exact words that were given to Lisa, this young girl, by my grandmother. So that is the extent of this project. I just came from Washington, D.C., just flew in, where we did it in the National Cathedral and brought it to thousands of students across Virginia. And before that, we did it in Nebraska, Omaha, where thousands of students are reading the book, and the book is getting adopted into curriculum. And then in 2 weeks, I'm going to leave to go to Israel. And I'm doing an 8-concert tour in Israel, where the book is now being primed to be adopted in the Arabic, Hebrew, and English versions into curriculum by the Ministry of Education.
Wow.
So it's a very broad program, educationally speaking, to inspire young people through the stage play, through the book, and through a partnership that I have with Spielberg's Shoah Foundation, where teachers can learn about the book, how to teach it, and incredible assets that have been created, videos that have been created by Discovery Channel on how to teach this book.
So Mona, if I may, the book that you just held up, Hold On to Your Music, that looked like a possibly a PJ Library book. Is that possible?
No, it's not.
It's not.
No.
So how is that distributed?
Well, the book is published by Little Brown, one of the great publishing houses of the world. And they also published my chapter book, and they published the young adult book. So you can buy this anywhere on Amazon. Okay. You can go to our foundation. It's many ways to get this. Okay. So and again, the reason I say that is that they do such great work. And at this particular juncture, with as much anti-Semitism as we see, the protests on campuses and things of that sort that are roiling into outright anti-Semitism, we have to take pause and say, here's a story that talks about and speaks directly to what the challenges are to the Jewish people and what have been the traditional challenges, and no better way to display it than in print,
but also you know, in a performance as you have. So let me go ahead and throw a couple of folks. There you are again at the piano, wearing the red wig that you mentioned. Again, I think that anybody who has been to your performance knows how much in the spirit you get. And again, one of the things that we should mention is that your mom was on the kinder transport, that she was saved. If anybody saw the recent film that was done with Nicholas
Willesden
Winton,
and
yeah, it was called One Life. Anthony, was it
Hopkins,
the
yeah.
yeah, I mean, he did an incredible job trying to channel that character. But again, so many of these kids were saved in the transport that went to England, but there was a lot behind it. You know, to get your mother on that train, I didn't realize, you know how much Winton had. I don't think he had anything to do with that. That was out of Budapest, I think.
Well,
And
Nicholas Winton, that was not the kinder transport.
right,
He was an individual who organized this and did this on his own from
yes,
the passion and feelings of his heart, which is so extraordinary because really all of this begs the question: what's our purpose here on Earth, and how do we want to treat our fellow humanity? The kinder transport story is an absolute miracle of a rescue operation that was organized by British Christians and British Jews when the desperation set in, and
right.
families were just desperate to get a ticket. And I think what is so powerful for your audience to hear and for young people to hear, and why I'm so excited about performing in the World War II Museum. I don't know if excited would be the right word, but deeply moved, deeply humbled to be doing this. It's because these stories are so relevant to today and what we see going on in the world, the massive refugee crisis, the absolute dissension and fighting among people from all walks of life, and the opposing views. And we've lost even a sense of civility or a way to even discuss things in a civil manner. It's almost gone down into kind of a kindergarten, being in a sandbox of insanity here. The way we're operating, what we see our leaders doing and whatnot. So for me, also, the fact that I'm going to have the opportunity to perform in the World War II Museum, I think about my father, who was one of the highest decorated Jewish officers in the French resistance. He received the Croix de Guerre from General Charles de Gaulle himself. And I think about I was reading how many people gave their lives from the state of Louisiana in World War II. I think it was something like around close to 300,000 volunteered and gave their lives and went and fought in World War II. And I think about the sacrifice. There's a point in our play where we talk about D-Day and all those brave, beautiful souls that are now buried on the beaches of Normandy. And there's a moment there where I'm pounding out the Rachmaninoff prelude, and I say those words. And when I'm on stage, I always choke up in that moment. I know that many people in the adult audiences that come and hear those moments, they know what I'm talking about. But when I think about all the young kids that I'm now performing in front of, and we've passed the 10 million mark of students, audience goers, and readers that have experienced the Lisa Euro story or the Children of Willesden Lane. But I think about, someone in their 5th grade or 4th grade. Do they feel the sacrifice? Do they even understand? Can they relate? Do they appreciate young people growing up? I mean, we are seeing something right now across America of students and activism and what is going on in our universities, which is very troubling. We all know that.
Yes, I agree.
Destruction, the inability to even have a civil conversation or a discourse. It's descended into insanity here.
And the ability to feel safe on a campus. That's one of the things that I think is really most troubling, is that as an example, Tulane is having problems right now with the protests on their campus, and the Jewish students, really are feeling that they're not respected, and that they're being their rights are being trampled upon by a lot of these people who are not even Tulane students. Many of them are
Right.
Loyola students. Many of them are outsiders. And you know, I have to also note one other fact is that most of them wear masks. And I you know, am very engaged with that aspect of if they're fighting a so-called righteous battle, you know, why do they have to put a mask on their face?
Oh, I couldn't
That's
agree with
my
you
take
more.
on it. But anyway, long and the short is you know, it's a very important reason that you're doing this. Thank you, Billy Goldring. You know, Billy Goldring is many times one of those people who does not look for any kind of applause or plaudits. He's out there doing the work that he can do for his foundations. And again, if he feels very strongly in something, it was Billy who helped us put on our conference for the American Jewish Press Association here last summer. So I understand exactly where, you know, his sentiments are, and he helped us out. And, you know, there are other people who also in this community who have worked. Somebody you worked with the last time, Sandy Levy. You remember Sandy? Sandy, of course, was the head of the Jewish Endowment Foundation here and worked with Billy and other people who were philanthropists in trying to channel money to help the Jewish community here locally. So, you know,
and there are other sponsors involved. Absolutely.
There are people. Yeah. And again, I really want people to understand that this is a very moving performance. I know that in my review, I mentioned the fact that you say a little prayer every night before you actually engage you know, the public, that you actually you have a Magen David, correct? A Star of David.
Yeah. Yes. And I have to say something to you. I wrote you that your review is one of the most cherished I will have ever received. I sometimes look at it when I think that when I keep going, and then I look at that. You really understand my heart and soul and why I go out on stage. And yes, in response to what you just said, I often say the Shema before I walk out on stage. And then I take the Star of Day that my mother had given to me as a young child. And I hold it for a second. And I ask myself to be worthy of the opportunity that I have to go out on stage to tell this story.
Yeah. And for those who are not Jewish, the Shema is probably the single most important prayer in Judaism in terms of declaring your love for God, and that God is one and the only one, and essentially a unifying prayer for all Jews, no matter where they are. They say the Shema at night before they go to sleep. They say the Shema when they're threatened. They say the Shema in regular practice in terms of religious services, et cetera, et cetera. It's a very, very important prayer, and again, one that identifies everyone who's a Jew, no matter where they are around the world. So, and again, you know, we learn it. Probably the first prayer we ever learn as a kid in religious school. You know, here's the Shema, and this is, you can take it, and nobody has to be told how to say it over and over again. You know it in your heart. Mona, I know we promised that we would talk a little bit about the event. Can you tell me again, for anybody who's interested in going, do they have to register for this event? Is this something that requires an RSVP?
I think it does, because, and I understand it's selling out. It's free to the public, but you have to go online, I guess, to the museum.
Yes. So yeah, National World War II Museum. And again, anybody who's you can look it up obviously through a search, but I'm pretty sure that it's National WW2 museum.org. So you don't have to spell out World War, but National WW2 museum.org. And once you're there, you can probably find the events. It'll be on that site. That not be a problem.
Yes.
And again, I do want everybody to understand that it is free, but there is a component to this that will not be basically a part of the production. It's going to be a community memorial service, and again, it's being done essentially on Yom HaShoah. Now, I don't know if is this the exact day for Yom HaShoah, because a lot of times you can't have Yom HaShoah on a day like a Saturday when it's a joyous day of Sabbath. So I'm wondering.
I don't know. Maybe Yom HaShoah is Sunday, or it could be Tuesday. I think.
Yeah, I was thinking. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I know it's going to be coming up on Monday that we're going to observe it here. So
Yes.
sometimes they do that. They because it's too close to Shabbat. They don't want to have a day that actually has some sort of sadness or sorrow attributed to it.
Right.
So a lot of the people who do that they do that. Again, you can go in a little bit of this. This is the are we calling this the Children of Willesden Lane this time as opposed to
Yes,
the
this is the
Pianist of
children
Willesden
of
Lane?
Willesden Lane. Yes.
So,
Right.
so the Children of Willesden Lane, originally a book that you wrote with.
I wrote with the co-authors Lee Cohen.
Yes, I just
And,
want his name on there. So,
yes,
and then
yes.
and then it became a performance piece for you. And Felder was associated with it. Was he with a Yiddish theater in New York? Was he? Has he?
I don't think
or
so.
not? Do you know? Do you
No.
know where? Because I know I've heard of some of his work before, but I'm trying to
Well,
get an idea of where.
he's one of the most celebrated performers really across America. He's a brilliant creator of the one-person show. He does Gershwin, Beethoven, Chopin.
That's where I do remember. During the pandemic, he did quite a number of those things. That's where it was.
He did a lot of films that he brought out.
Yes. Okay, I was trying to remember where I knew him, and I was trying to think, was it possibly? Sometimes my mind getting a little older, I will admit it. And sometimes it gets a little the cobwebs start to cloud. But basically, I do know who that is, and I thought he was brilliant in some of the things that he did. I mean, I didn't see all the things he saw fit to put up, but it was a source of entertainment that during the pandemic, a lot of times we were so hungry for anything.
Exactly.
And again, I don't know about you, but I know that where we were here down in New Orleans, we had nothing going on. And oftentimes, I would put on readings for people, and there'd be 200 or 300 people watching these readings during the week, which was, essentially the biggest theater show in the city that week. So, again, I'm very happy that we got through this period. I'm delighted that you were able to bring the show back, because even though it's a little different and it's going to be, more or less a little abridged from what you had, and you'll be performing as, I guess, yourself rather than as your mother. I still have to say that you really do a wonderful job channeling all the characters, and I hope that you have an opportunity to come back after this time to do the Pianist again, that somebody will take it upon themselves to bring you back and have the full-fledged production. I
would love to do it. Absolutely. And this is like one of the great cities of the world. So who wouldn't want to come back?
Yes. Yeah. And of course, it's only a one-night event, but I'm hoping that you'll be able to when you do come into New Orleans, and it's unfortunate that I have a reporter going to be assigned to doing it, that I'll have to be elsewhere. But I do want you to know that my spirit will be there with you, and I'll be saying go, go, go. So even though I won't be able to be there, it's one of the few times I will be missing the Yom HaShoah event. Circumstances beyond my control, but again, it's always a very meaningful event. And I have to tell you that when we first started doing these events, we had dozens of survivors who were participating, and we are really down to 2 survivors now, sisters, Ann Levy and Lila Millen, her sister. Those are the only 2 of the original survivors who settled in New Orleans, and their story by itself is an amazing story. If you ever get a chance to read the book,
I think they're going to be honored. They're going to be there.
They probably will. But if you ever see the book that was done by Lawrence Powell from Tulane called Troubled Memory about Anne and her mother and her father, and it's just an amazing story how they were able to get out of the Warsaw Ghetto, et cetera, and intact as a family. And again, it's inspirational. But so is your story. And again, to your mother's credit, to your credit, and to everyone who's taking part in this, everybody at the National World War II Museum, I want to thank you, and I want to thank them. Again, we're going to be mentioning one more time, this is going to be on Monday, May the 6th, starting up around
5:30 reception, and then and then the ceremony, and then the performance.
And you need to register on National WW2 museum.org, and you'll be able to go to that link and then register for the event. And again, I can't tell you how much it means for me to be able to talk to you again. I appreciate the kind words about my review. Anybody who needs to see that review, I'll ask you to just go online to either the Crescent City Jewish News or .com, and those reviews out there basically the same, a little more Yiddish, a little more Jewish references in the Crescent City Jewish News. But again, Mona, thank you for being with me. I'm going to ask you just to stick around for just a second while I say goodbye. And again, our guest tonight has been Mona Golabek. I appreciate her being with me. Again, this is Alan Smason wishing you and yours a wonderful night. And again, thank you, and I'll see you at the theater.